I'm going to show a lot of examples. My headline is Dare to Make, so I'm going to show things I've done with a lot of people. It's going to be a lot of what I've done, but of course, actually, it's done with hundreds of thousands of participants and viewers and fans. My idea is that transmedia is about humans. When you add them to a drama, things become much better. So forget about the technologies a little bit and think about what you convey. Also, by adding drama to a person's life, maybe you can make them a little bit better. So at the end of this very sprawling speech, I'm going to try to show how we can use transmedia to make us better humans. This is a picture of a project we did for the UN about peace and reconciliation. As I said, it's going to be a lot of examples and a lot of cases where we've done different things to show you sort of tangible what transmedia can be. And it's not just about screens. Here are examples from a project called The Three Villages. And there's a young guy there looking very scruffy, that's me, and still sort of childish, a little bit older and with a beard to the right there. And these villages were built by the participants in a so-called live-action role-playing event, where they gathered together to create a fairy tale world. In Sweden, you can camp anywhere. So, of course, we interpret that as we can build a fairy tale village anywhere, just at least temporarily, and sort of stay there. And embody these characters of stories. Here's a farmer and dragon worshipper based on the book The Age of the Storm by a friend of mine. And with his hand-carved props and his costume, and he's sort of stepping into becoming one of these hero characters for real. These live-action events really makes the drama, the story, whatever it is that you're reenacting, a whole-body experience, which is what transmedia affords you to do. You can interact with the medium, not just consume it. And what it is about is, of course, embodying the different disciplines in the story world that you want to explore, or the drama that you want to feel. So it can be performative art, so it can be reenactment, and you sew your own costumes in a live-action role-playing event. You practice the singing and the dancing and so on, and sort of create everything from birth to death by being there, living it through these experiences. And of course, you know, the experience of eating a fantasy dish, or performing a ritual, a dance that never really existed, or sleeping under the blanket of an idea that you create around the campfire, is really being inside a story, which is what transmedia in the end allows you to do. And these physical events are good examples of. And what we all know, what we all can do, we all participate in our own life, and with new technology, we can participate in the entertainment pieces also. When these projects that I did as a kid and continue to do very childishly and devotedly grew and become more advanced, we had to bring in more advanced disciplines: landscaping, architecture, engineering. So here you see a model of a landscaped village with roads and houses, and you see on the right you see a spaceship art design for a futuristic spaceship. And then it's just a matter of building them. So to the left, you can see one of the 13 houses we built in the Cinderhill village, according to the model. And to the right, you can see the sensor array and the different controls for 3D flight of the submarine that we refurnished into the futuristic spaceship Carolus Rex. This was done, of course, with people from all over Europe or all over the country, the different countries involved, coming together to make this a reality. And, you know, then when you built this, it's just a matter of moving in. So to the left, you can see people in a magical techno ritual in Momentum, trying to get embodied by the ghosts of old revolutionaries like Che Guevara. And to the right, you can see the villagers in Cinderhill thinking about how to go about today's farming work and to get the food for tonight in place and so on. And there was a little poster there that said, "Lend us our body," which is really what transmedia is about. Lend us your body and we'll sort of help you fill it with new fantastic things. Here you can see a vigil at the Grand Temple in Cinderhill with its hand-carved pillars and stone walkways and monks standing sort of guard in early morning or late night because of the dragon that might appear, of course, since it's a dragon fantasy. So these live events is, of course, about a very new type of storytelling, very much more chaotic than the linear drama. So when you write for transmedia, or you write for an event where people actually engage, have a sense of agency, you have to deconstruct the linear story and reconstruct in a chaotic, more object-oriented storytelling. What we did for Doll Play with Joss Whedon for the show Dollhouse was that we created something called emo riddles, half emotional, half intellectual sort of turns, like a character's turn in a plot line that the participant could engage in, to give them emotions. Here's this is not an actor, this is a participant sitting in a foxhole in the Rage live action event, feeling very overwhelmed by the war that is raging around him. And that is what we want to do. We want to bring the drama from our centrally constructed ideas into the hearts and minds of the people, whether they're in front of a console or in a muddy foxhole. Get down and dirty with them and create these stories. Of course, there's this old saying, if you build it, they will come. We feel that if you let them build it, they will come. So these events became more and more massive. Here's from an open-air stage called the Hat Square that we do every year with 10,000 visitors daily. Just because it's an open busker stage, they can come in and perform, and you know, it's 500 people in the audience sitting around having a picnic. And roughly 10,000 people every day for a week visiting, looking what they're doing. And on that you can also see that a lot of the people in the audience wear costumes for that Renaissance fair. And when you engage in something, you care about it and you love it, you want to spread it. So of course it becomes a viral thing. Here you see people rally, or you will when the lights shine up, you see people rally around the flag in The Truth About Marika, which was a coded message to a dialogue with the secret organization. But of course it also became a marketing tool that spread all over, not just at music festivals, but all over the internet and the nation. All these clickable to our central web page that became the third largest political blog in Sweden for a period of time in one of the political listings, although it was a fictional conspiracy theory blog about a missing woman. And you know, they spread them everywhere, creating a sort of hobos writing on the wall messages, dialogue between them and our main characters. And so when you do it together with people, they're going to grow, it's going to grow massive, and then eventually it's going to jump borders and become international, because of course, you know, the old model of broadcasting to a controlled audience is really not working anymore. With the internet, it's an uncontrolled audience, but you really don't have to work for it. It will spread itself and jump borders. So in the Conspiracy for Good project with Tim Kring, you know, we shot on in 6 countries on 3 continents, and we placed game content everywhere in different cities leading up to London for the end events, and on web pages and of course everywhere. And people sort of found these events and explored the story with us. When you work in public space, you have to sort of infiltrate yourself into the lifestyle. So for instance, we can hide story in this opera singer standing in Brick Lane in London, singing clues to the people passing by, or balloons that signal colored messages, or we create large diversions that sort of shake up the cityscape a little bit. And in this case, these Bollywood dancers allowed the hardcore fans to sneak into a secret door and up to a rooftop building overlooking the entire London, where they then stayed. And new media, transmedia, allows you to really hotwire reality. We can build sensors in a glove. Here is a ghost sensoring glove that you can see if you're close to one of those revolutionaries. Of course, there's an RFID reader in the glove, and we hide these RFID tags in statues and so on. But it's about, you know, using these technologies that are available and throwing them out into reality, making the streets dance and animate to what you want them to do. And, you know, if you look at the city, it's really an unexplored game map. So here you can see a guy looking for some clues at a mudlarking event around the Thames, and then sort of stepping up following the clues, stepping up the steps into what very much looks like a computer game maze. But he's using, together with his fellow players, the cell phone to point at an object and get a video that was shot on location, and that is triggered by augmented reality when they point at the right object. So, you know, you really can create the writing on the wall and let people experience that for real. And it's an amazing feeling seeing the protagonist run down the street, the same street you're standing, and you really want to run after. Then, when you've used the technology to animate society or the cityscape, you put your characters there. So here you can see a video of some of the fans and one of the main characters in The Truth About Marika exploring an abandoned water tower in this sort of Nancy Drew experience, where they find a mosaic holding clues that you can point your cell phone at to get more information at a quick reference symbol, you know, like a barcode. And so this is really what it's about, putting people out there and then giving the story to them. In Momentum, we refurnished a decommissioned nuclear power research plant 100 feet down below the streets of Stockholm into a secret magical headquarters for these revolutionaries. And they could stay there for a month, live in the story, and venture out into the city and do their missions with their glove and finding the different ghosts. Sometimes it's about not building these big structures or using small mobile technology. Sometimes it's about sort of retooling things into new technology. Here's a prototype of the Dragon for Cinderhill. And this is a very small model, but then, we dared to make it bigger. And we put it on top of a forest machine and sort of reworked the pneumatics and hydraulics of that, which I'm going to show you now. And I think it's 26 meters in length, a fully robotic dragon that we then put a lot of sensors on, a lot of cameras on, and Timo Multamäki is the visionary behind this with his engineering team, Heiko Ruma and so on. And they worked for 2 years together with people from all over the world to construct this dragon, because of course you want to meet the monster and slay it. And then we sort of very carefully put this 26-meter monster in the middle of our fans into an enhanced interaction transmedia experience. So here's a fire ritual around the dragon. You can see the temple in the background, built by these people from all over the world. The dragon, and then the sort of hardcore fans that lived in Cinderhill for about a week. In character, 24/7, in the world, 24/7, interacting with sort of ubiquitous but very hidden technology. In the temple pillar, there's cameras that can capture everything they're doing. Of course, being very tied to broadcast, we think about how we can reinvent cinematics to work for all these participatory chaotic experiences. You can use an SLR camera to shoot in HD now, so you don't have to have a big rig. You can put something in your car or whatever. In the far left, right there, you can see a live debate show that was after each episode of The Truth About Marika, capturing all the things that the participants done. And in the upper right, you can see cell phone footage and reality footage of the participants exploring this sort of inception-like, dream-like London cityscape through the game. You create a lot of content this way. You have a lot of different grabs and material from different contents. You have to create a new way of producing it. And telenovelas is really a slow model compared to how rapid you have to be. For Fox, we produced 51 webisodes in 2 weeks. And so you have to have it all timed, and then you sort of rewrite the script in the morning, shoot during the day, post-produce in the evening, and air it at night. Of course, you can plant it in any medium you want. So here's for another project, we put these checkered barcodes inside a massively multi-user game world. Not just the sort of marketing or franchising. The main character actually played an avatar in this game world, and you can meet her and interact with her and find these objects that were then sold on eBay for $3,000, although they can really not help you with anything else than find this missing character in a story world that we created. We want to change the paradigm, or we do change the paradigm of click to play to click to communicate. When you sit in front of a screen, it's not really about sort of eyeballs anymore. It's about fingertips. And with the mobile technology, it's about footsteps. You have to rate what people do and feel. And through these actions, you can see the real value of your product. So we created this web page for one of the projects where you could, you click the button, then your web camera comes on and you can record video. So in 2 weeks, the audience recorded 1,000 videos that are all dialogue to our main character, asking her questions, trying to help her out. And then you feed all this into your sort of video timeline in Final Cut Pro, whatever you're using. With special effects and so on. It's computer grabs, it's reality footage, it's prepped video and so on. And that they become story beats of your episode, of whatever show you want to do, if it's a 1 hour or 25 minutes or whatever. And what has happened during the weeks or month or days leading up to that episode becomes the story beats or acts of a bigger episode that then the passive audience can consume. I started by saying that I think good drama makes good humans, and that maybe by engaging, things can happen. So in The Conspiracy for Good, instead of a dragon tale and so on, we created the story of the whole pipeline going through the Petauke region of Zambia. That's a fake story, but we couldn't really very well talk about cholera, famine, HIV and poverty in a way that we sort of would engage the mainstream audience. So we created a villain that they could really touch and feel. In this case, the Blackwell Briggs multinational company trying to control us through CCTV cameras and sort of really harvest their own value by their bottom line by going into these different areas. So we created an applicable story for what's really going on in Zambia, and a villain that is larger than life and untouchable. But because it's a transmedia story, you can actually fight the villain. If you come together, like they did over several months, and then in the events in London, they can find the smoking gun, they can bring down Syrian
under the protected
himself.
wings of their own private paramilitary
Instead of
services,
the sort of crimes that are just sort of, I don't know, a dragon eating up a village, we looked at the real crimes of our time, how big corporations sort of ravenously hunger for profit and then starve our own world. So the subject matter of the Conspiracy for Good was very much real. But the way we told it was through this, mythical story of good and evil, the villain and the heroes, where the participants are the heroes. And they all came together at the press conference at the end event in London, where they managed to sort of air this video of the CEO himself retiring one of his whistleblower employees, and then Scotland Yard came and arrested the man, and celebration ensued. And you can do that. It's like a child can hear a horrible story and a happy end or a gruesome end and learn from that. And we're all childs in that way. We're sort of paralyzed by how difficult reality is, and we want to see ways to change it. In the Conspiracy for Good, it's not just a fiction. Here are. Could you crank up the volume a little bit? Here's music and pictures from Shataika village for real, where we actually built a school or a library for the school and furnished it with our partners with 10,000 books and gave 50 young kids scholarships. And we helped 5 different charities in London with food reach out and so on through this project. So by immersing into this fiction together with people through transmedia, in the streets, online, mobile and so on, we started a little change. There's the foundation for the library. Thank you.